while fans have been expecting Ilia Topuria's first title defense to be against Paddy Pimblett, UFC lightweight contender Dan Hooker just dropped a bombshell that may flip the script. In a recent Submission Radio interview, Hooker revealed that the UFC is actually working on Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the featherweight belt. Hooker didn't stop there. He essentially laid out the entire game plan for the top of the lightweight division. He claimed Max Holloway is in line for a rematch against Charles Oliveira, while Arman Tsarukyan remains the only top contender left without an opponent. Hooker then made his move. He called out Tsarukyan directly. According to him, Arman turned down a fight with Mateusz Gamrot and is now stuck waiting. Hooker, who recently signed with a top-tier manager, says he's refocused and ready for a serious run. No more dumb career choices, as he put it. The specificity of Hooker's statements has fans wondering if his new management team has inside knowledge of UFC matchmaking. Whether or not Hooker's claims come true, one thing's clear. He's gunning for Arman, and he believes a win over the Armenian contender will catapult him back into title contention. Meanwhile, all eyes are now on Ilia and Gaethje to see if that rumored matchup actually gets booked. Ilia Topuria's trash talk might have finally gone too far, and now he's facing major backlash from the Russian MMA community. What began as subtle tension between Ilia and Team Khabib has spiraled into full-blown hostility. First came verbal shots from Islam Makhachev, Umar Nurmagomedov, and Sharamagomedov. Now, even former bantamweight king Petr Yan has stepped into the ring of criticism. The latest wave of heat came shortly after Yan's impressive showing against Marcus McGee. In a fiery sit-down with Ushateka, Yan took direct aim at Ilia, critiquing both his boxing and his recent performances. While he did give a small nod to Topuria's technical foundation, he made it clear that he doesn't consider Ilia an elite striker. According to Yan, Ilia wouldn't last around with Russia's true boxing elite, fighters who have earned their master of sport credentials. It's worth noting that Yan himself holds that prestigious title in boxing. Yan also refused to be impressed by Topuria's title-winning knockout over Max Holloway. He suggested that Max's cardio and footwork failed him, rather than Ilia putting on some kind of masterclass. Yan insisted that a fully prepped Holloway could beat Topuria in a rematch, essentially dismissing Ilia's win as circumstantial. When pressed about a fantasy matchup between himself and Topuria, Yan stayed diplomatic, but firm. He brushed off the hypothetical, but made it clear he believes his boxing is superior to anyone at 145, Topuria included. The tension isn't just technical, it's cultural too. The long-standing friction between Georgian and Russian fighters continues to simmer, and Ilia's loud personality seems to be throwing fuel on that fire. Jiri Prochazka just made UFC 320 a whole lot more interesting. The former light heavyweight champion has officially been confirmed as the backup for the UFC 320 title rematch between Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira. While Jiri was already scheduled to fight Khalil Rountree on the same card, his team has now revealed that he's cutting weight to make championship weight, just in case one of the headliners drops out. It's a strategic move by the UFC. With Pereira's heavy schedule and Ankalaev's injury history, a last-minute shakeup isn't out of the question. Prochazka also made it clear he's keeping an eye on both fighters, but he had particularly sharp words for Rountree. He criticized Khalil's past performance against Jamal Hill, calling it overly cautious and lacking killer instinct. Still, he did acknowledge Rountree's discipline and technical improvement. If everything goes to plan, Jiri versus Rountree remains a high-stakes eliminator, but if disaster strikes the main event, don't be surprised if Jiri steps in a challenge for gold once again. Either way, the light heavyweight division is finally heating up after a slow year, and UFC 320 might just blow the doors off. Jorge Masvidal is officially back, and he's not staying quiet. The original BMF has declared war on the welterweight division again, and this time he's got his sights set on a specific opponent at a very specific venue. Colby Covington at the UFC White House card on July 4th. That's right, Masvidal wants to throw hands on the most American stage possible, and he's willing to call in political favors to make it happen. In a recent interview with Casino Hawks, Masvidal made his intentions loud and clear. "Trump owes me one," he said, referring to his strong support for former President Donald Trump during the 2020 election. He said, "I helped him win Miami. Well, now I need that favor returned. Get me on that White House card. I'll even call him myself. I've got Trump, I've got Marco Rubio. I'll call everyone I need to. I want that fight on the White House lawn. And I want Colby." The bad blood between Masvidal and Covington is no secret. The two former friends turned bitter rivals clashed back in 2022, with Covington winning by unanimous decision. But that didn't settle the score, especially not in Masvidal's eyes. He's gunning for revenge, and what better place in the White House? Interestingly, Colby might have more than one suitor. Rising Brazilian star Gabriel Bonfim also called Covington out after his impressive win over Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Bonfim believes that with most top 10 welterweights already booked, a matchup with Colby makes perfect sense. Given Covington's outspoken political stance and his friendship with Trump, many expect him to appear on the White House card. The only question is, will it be Masvidal or Bonfim standing across from him? Michael Bisping just dropped his official breakdown of the newly announced Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane clash, and he thinks fans are sleeping on how dangerous this fight could be. While most of the attention has been on potential Tom Aspinall versus John Jones showdown, that fight remains uncertain. Instead, Aspinall will defend his undisputed title against one of the trickiest strikers in the heavyweight division, Ciryl Gane. Bisping praised Gane's footwork and striking finesse, calling him perhaps the most elusive heavyweight in UFC history. But he also emphasized that Gane's lack of ground defense is a massive red flag. According to Bisping, the clearest path to victory for Aspinall is through grappling. He believes that if Tom sticks to a wrestling-heavy game plan, the fight could be one-sided. But if he chooses to strike, he'll need to be sharp, because Cyryl's movement and distance control could frustrate even the best heavy hitters. Still, Bisping reminded everyone that Tom's speed, timing, and knockout power are no joke. If he connects cleanly, even Gane's polished footwork might not save him. Let's jump into some major UFC news and roster changes following the latest events. First up, Amir Albazi has pulled out his scheduled bout for August 2nd. The flyweight contender released an emotional statement online, saying he completed his full training camp but was not medically cleared to compete. "This one hurts," Albazi wrote. "I did everything right, but sometimes your body doesn't cooperate. The UFC and commission made the right call, and I'll be back better than ever." In response, the UFC quickly reshuffled the card, and Tatsuro Taira will now face a short-notice replacement to keep the matchup alive. Meanwhile, a change has been made to the UFC Vegas 109 card set for August 9th. Following the withdrawal of Young Park, former title challenger Steve Erceg will now square off against Ode Osborne. Osborne snapped a losing streak earlier this year with a win over Luis Garula and is looking to build momentum. In welterweight news, Gilbert Burns has set his target, Daniel Rodriguez. Burns recently told MMA Junkie he's still recovering from a concussion but expects to return in December or January. "I saw Durad just beat Kevin Holland, and I think that's a banger of a fight," Burns said. Rodriguez responded quickly via Instagram, accepting the challenge. Pending medical clearance, that fight is nearly a lock. After the action-packed UFC card in Abu Dhabi, the middleweight rankings saw a major shift. With his latest win, Dricus du Plessis is now officially ranked number 5 at 185 pounds, continuing his rapid climb toward a title shot. On the other end, Robert Whittaker, once a top contender and former champ, has fallen out of the top 5 for the first time in more than 8 years. He now sits at number 8, raising questions about what's next for the Reaper. Dominic Reyes versus Carlos Ulberg headlines UFC Perth in September. Reyes, who's been on a tough skid, is looking to bounce back and re-establish himself as a threat in the division. Ulberg, fresh off a string of strong performances, sees this as his moment to break into the elite tier. With both men having knockout power and something to prove, this fight promises fireworks for the Australian crowd.